Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Today is Friday, the 14th of January, 2022. Thank you for joining us for another episode of PEP Talks in the morning. My name is Hadassah Charles McLeod. I'm your host for today's show. Lima sends her greeting. She could not be with us, but fortunately for us, Felicia selflessly agreed to co-host with me today, and we're always happy to have her. Good morning, Miss Holder. How are you?
Good morning, Rasta. I am great. And since this is my first show for the new year, Happy New Year to you and everybody else.
Indeed. Indeed. How is the new year treating you?
Um, so far, interesting. Um, I took a 2, 3 day vacation in Tobago, and that was excellent. I mean, other than Tobago being just extremely flawlessly beautiful, the people great people, as well as everybody I spoke to. I said, I hope you vote PDP, and everybody is like, who else would be vote for us? Like, ah! So that compounded my great trip, and you know, was a nice relaxing time. I came back, I got the cold, not COVID. Yes, I got the cold, so I'm a little kind of stuffy. I got it on Monday, so today's
Mhm.
Friday. Much better and stuff, but still a little stuffy. People still getting the cold during COVID. I'm like, yes, other things still happen during COVID. COVID is not the end all of illnesses that you can get. But thankfully it's not the big C, even though part of me was kinda was wondering if this is it, then whoa, I'll deal with it like a champ because my day two I was good. I didn't get any fever. It was just like a sore throat, and then I realized it was a cold. I did the test and all that. So grateful
Okay.
to be here. So
Well, I hope you feel better, and I'm glad that you had a little vacation. I think you were very, very deserving and needing of a vacation. We are 2 weeks already into the new year, but somehow it feels longer. I don't know if that's just me alone, but it already feels, like if we've been through um, a lot. And as usual, we have a lot to talk about today because there is always something going on in Trinidad. Um, and mostly not positive things. I wanted to say a special condolences to the family and mother of the Olympian who died in Texas in the car accident. I don't remember his name, but I just remembered it, and I just wanted to extend condolences to him and, of course, to the country as well. It was
yeah,
really sure that his life got cut short, and I really hope his mother is pleading for the government to bring his body home, and I really hope that they would oblige her and do all that they can,
yeah,
because we have a history of not treating our heroes well and casting people aside who did great things for us and brought positive light to our country. So I just
yeah,
wanted to get that out there. Um, at the top of the week, though, we had the protest um, on the highway staged by the Beetham residents. And for those of you who joined us on Monday, share the live, guys, as you come in. For those of you who joined us on Monday, you guys would recall that while Emma and I were doing the show, we would have gotten wind of the news that there was a protest on the highway, and it was causing, the traffic to back up for miles. And at the time, it was being said that they were protesting for water. We found out afterwards what the problem was. But I remember saying to you guys that let us not respond in the same way that we always respond, which is to get angry, to be upset, and to even respond in fear. Because you say, well, we might be stuck on the bottom, and that could mean bad things for you. And I just said, let us this time around try to stand with these people and see what we could do to help them, to help their cause along. And I'm really glad that I said that because these are people who have been forgotten, they've been neglected, and they use the only voice, quote unquote, and the only language that they know to get the attention of those with the power to do anything. Felicia, what do you make of what happened on Monday?
Well, Will, it was really the kickstart of the year. And even though it's week 2, it feels like week 5. And they say January is the longest month of the year, the longest 5 months of the year.
Yeah.
And a lot for me personally happened. Like I said, I took my small vacation, and I got a little sick. But this is also a big thing that we're discussing here. What took place on Monday, because I think that was the first major protest activity that took place in Trinidad and Tobago for the New Year. It's just
Correct.
Monday was what, the 11th, 11th of the 10th. Monday was the
Mhm.
10th of January. Just 10 days into the New Year, we had a major incident. I say major incident because it called out heavily armed forces. It caused major panic and traffic diversions away from the Beetham and the bus route, which are the two main points of entry into Port of Spain, into the western part of the island. And like I said, it caused panic, it caused fear, and all of that. But most importantly, it told a very telling story. It's the 10th day of a brand new year, and we have a large community, and I call the Beetham residents a large community because they are a large community. They were large enough to cause major disruptions across Trinidad that morning. But a large cross section of that community came together and said enough was enough. And then I say, yes, I'm glad that you made the decision to wait until you heard the details of the story. Because when Philip called me that morning and said, I'm on my way to the Beetham to do a live, I'm like, what's
Yeah.
happening? I saw the message. I saw my team, everybody's on their way to work, so everybody's updating each other. There's traffic, this is happening, we don't know what's the cause. You're just hearing that there's police and probably lit debris, and your mind goes back to all of the times that you've heard about there being action on the highway and on the bus, and there raises a level of panic and concern and fear. But I always say that we fear the unknown, and when you break down and you disseminate that story, and when you find out what it is these residents have been living under for the past 4 months, I almost want to join them. I almost
Exactly.
want to join them. Hadassah, a woman came to our office, a cut member came to our office, adamant, up in arms. Her home in Westmoreland in Goodwood Park, there was a leak. There was a leak in front of her home, a pipe burst, and the entire community was up in arms. Could you imagine what would have happened if a sewer was running every day for 4 months in that community? She wouldn't be in our office. She would have burned down the Red House.
Exactly. Exactly. And what this situation highlighted for me is how important representation is. Because Fitzgerald Heinz, he is the MP for that area, which is Laventille West. And seeing the people in their distress and seeing their reaction and whatnot. And first of all, I don't understand why we always need to send out police and heavily armed police to quell protests when we actually should be doing all that we can to encourage or to at least contain it or whatnot, but at least allow people to demonstrate their displeasure for what is happening. Fitzgerald Hines told the community to have patience. And I told myself he has spoken like somebody who does not live in the area. Because if he lived in Beetham Gardens, what happened? I see you laughing. If he lived in Beetham Gardens, he would not have been content to let that horrible stench assault him and to let water come up in his yard and in his house every time somebody flushes the toilet because the sewage is coming up and that it needed to fix and things like that. And I was like, how much more do people need to endure, or how much more do people need to go through to recognize that this man is not for you? He is not on your side. He does not care about your children, about your children's health, about your well-being, about the environment, about anything.
That's and you're making the point, you're making the exact point. How do you have patience? How do you listen? If I did not see it for myself, if I did not see it on that video with my own two eyes, I would not have believed it. I would not have believed it. And it is still, to me, like it's like an impossible situation. How do you tell people have patience and in a situation like that? Like what? So that's what we're talking about. Where's EMA?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the thing about it is, I was thinking about if this were to happen in another country. I was talking about a country that works. This is not a political thing. And Philip said it on the video. This is not a political thing. When you have this stench emanating and you have sewage coming up, which could, I mean, grossly affect people's health and their livelihoods and whatnot. There's supposed to be an immediate national response. And you ask the question, where is the EMA? And how is it that this is allowed to go on so long? And you ask these people to be patient. Now, first of all, I can only recall two major protests on the highway done by Beetham residents. I know there have been more, but I can only recall two, which to me tells me that these people don't protest enough, because he's asking these people to be patient. They're the most neglected, they're the most forgotten, and they don't even complain because of the stench that they already have to endure living alongside the landfill, right? For them to get to the point where they take to the highway and put tires down and burn it and things like that, it means that they have reached an end. And if anything, from the moment you hear that the situation, it is sewage coming up, you're supposed to respond quickly. And you say, have patience. I was so incensed on Monday.
Have patience. I try to imagine what the response would be if that was to happen to him, if that was his own home that this was happening to. And you see,
Exactly.
it's almost stupid of me to say something like that, because a situation like that will never happen. We live in a country. Somebody was just telling me just this week that where he lives, they always have water, because there are several judges that live on his street, and the judges know people in Wassa, so they always have water. And I'm like, it must be so nice to live in a little isolated part of the country like that, where things actually work for you, well, at least on a consistent basis. And that's it. We have the untouchable people who just are not able to understand what happens here on the ground. So when they go on the campaign every 5 years and every 4 years, and they say, we got you, we have your back. And then they forget about the people. And if follow those who come in to say, oh, they vote for that, they put them there, if election call, or they vote in PNM again, who do they have again to represent them? Honestly,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Kamala seemed it for them when they got there?
Yeah.
When did Kamala go?
Exactly.
Where was the
Exactly.
hope and the change that she was supposed to bring to the Beetham residents community?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Yeah. I mean, before we could say they were between a rock and a hard place. I mean, people have a choice now. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But we actually live in a country that does not work, Felicia. Nothing works. I mean, we are 2 weeks into the new year. We've had as many murders as we've had days. Our PM is missing in action. We're still having record deaths of from COVID and new COVID cases and whatnot. Nothing is working. Just yesterday, Philip talked about the fact that a woman died waiting for an ambulance that never came, right?
And these people have the goal to want to sue and send pre-action protocol letters. How? How you can know that the service that you're providing, it's not like the service that you're providing leading to somebody getting a stomachache. It's not like the service that you're providing leading to people. I don't know, what's the most absurd thing that you think the service that you're providing is little. And you see, if you say that, they want, like I said, they want to send you letters, and I don't understand it. People out here losing their lives. They're out here losing their lives. And the solution might just be to beef up the service or get a new service provider. And I don't
Yep.
understand why it's not triggering something
I don't know.
serious. Like, why is it that it has to happen to my family member, or somebody that I know, or somebody that I know who knows somebody? Like, why does it have to always get to that extreme? Why do we have to wait until the wolf reaches our door? Nobody wants that to happen. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to wake up and have that as their reality.
The thing about it is, as piss poor as the ambulance service is, whether it works or not, they still have a contract, they still get paid. It's we fighting up here. It's we fighting up. It's we hoping that when it's our turn, when it's our family or whatnot, that one, you have a vehicle to move the patient, and that they're not so sick that moving them wouldn't make it worse or jeopardize their lives. Or you have to hope that when you do call, an ambulance actually does come within an hour. But we can't continue accepting this. And it needs to be more of us need to raise our voices, more of us need to write, more of us need to let the news know, more of us need to do lives and whatnot. Because everybody has to express their displeasure, because when it's one or two people, they don't care. They really don't care.
There's a saying that I can't remember who was the person who said it. Right? It's a saying that I know through politics, and that's protest is a language of the unheard. And I always love that statement, because somebody said it earlier on the thread. Nobody would have to protest if things worked. Nobody would have to protest if they could actually get
Mm-hmm.
to the MPs. And there's a difference between knowing when something really cannot be fixed, and then knowing that the person who is in charge of fixing it just doesn't seem to have a real interest in wanting it to be fixed. And I think that's where the residents of Beetham feel with the MP Heinz. And as
Yeah.
somebody sent me back the picture of them kicking the water, and him started to circulate again after Monday. And suddenly all of the people who thought it was disrespectful 2 and 3 years ago,
They understand.
they
They get it
understand
now.
now. It's like they
They
get
get
it
it now.
now.
They
And
get
they're
it now.
saying the
Yeah.
water that they kick on him, it shouldn't be shit water. That's what they're saying. That's what they're
Yeah.
saying now, because how could you put people through a situation? And I'm sorry to come back to that situation, but it all ties together. It's poor representation. It's poor healthcare. It's poor health, not health, sorry, poor waste management. It's just everything around you, especially for the most vulnerable. Everything around us just doesn't work.
I don't understand though where they get the balls, nay, the audacity, the courage to actually campaign and ask people to vote for them. Again, I don't understand how Fitzgerald Heinz is going to ask people to vote for him in the next election. And I don't know what his track record is. I don't know what he has been successful in doing. I don't know what improvements have been made in his constituencies since he's been the MP. I don't know if he has contributed to improve quality of life or anything like that. But as far as I can see from the outside looking in, it looks like he is failing miserably. And I don't know how he's going to ask these people to vote for him.
because he's gonna do like what the Attorney General Faris Alwari or Rawi or whatever is doing right now, which is closer to the time of elections, like the elections in Davies approaching, they suddenly have change of hearts and minds and they do the little stupid things to try and appease the people. So they build a little traffic. Wasn't Heinz built for them last year? The
It
hub,
was a hub, a transportation hub,
the
which was
transportation hub,
actually a bus shed.
which was a bloodshed,
Yes.
and probably homeless people, the same displaced homeless people that he don't know what to do, probably sleeping on and made a home of under by now. And then when they got some years ago a swimming pool that they still can't use, they give them the little cookies and the crumbs and say, hey, it's election time. But this time, I think the people are just, and like the Tobagonians just show them, your little cookies and crumbs and handouts ain't enough, partner. We ain't forget what you did to us in the past 2 years. And it's not like we're forgetting what you did to us in the past years before that. Maybe back
Yeah.
then we didn't know better. Maybe back then we didn't have options. But it's not the same
True.
time.
I'm hoping that the voters are now a horse of a different color, because one resident called into Philip's show on Monday night and he was actually asking things about, getting legal representation, and if it is at all, if the residents are entitled to some type of compensation and whatnot. And I feel like people need to start to think like that more when you start to recognize, okay, these circumstances are unacceptable. I am a citizen, I am a tax-paying member of society, etc., etc., etc. I have an MP who is supposed to speak for me in Parliament, who is supposed to make my life better, where I'm supposed to see where my taxpayers' dollars are working in my community, because I'm supposed to have a better water supply, better drainage. I'm supposed to feel safer. There should be infrastructure. There should be schools and a health center and things like that. And they're recognizing that um, chunks of their lives are going every 5 years and nothing has improved and nothing is getting better. And I really liked that question. And I really hope that they will continue to pursue it and let the government know that it is not okay. You cannot take us for granted and just use us as a convenient food.
I absolutely love that question as well. I did not hear it, but you know that question is, Hadassah, that question is an informed question. And that question is a question that if I were Fitzgerald Hines today, if I were Keith Rowley today, if I was Stuart Young, if I were Faris, if I were Terrence, if I was any of them, I would sit up straight. Because one of the things that they have done to the residents of Beetham and Laventille and Move On and all
Felix,
the
yes.
all the underserved communities. One thing that they have done well is keep them in the dark. They've keep them uninformed and they've keep them dependent. That's the word, dependent. And dependent on them for everything, for information, for jobs, for social welfare, for homes, for handouts, everything. Just dependent and not just underinformed, but also misinformed. Because if you go to one of those PNM meetings and ask, you will hear the level, the precise level of propaganda that they are able to put out there. So much so that I witnessed with my own two eyes a man, and it's not just propaganda, it's propaganda, and those on the outside drinking alcohol. I witnessed a man walking up the road cussing after PNM meeting. I can't believe Kamala and them steal all that money, and he's mad. He mad as if Kamala came into his own house and stole that money, and that's how incensed they get them. That's how incensed they get them to hate and despise the other. So they misinform them and they underinform them so that they can't ask questions like what that lady called in and ask, what are my legal recourses? And that's how we want people talking. That's the questions we want people asking, because that tells that you are literally freeing yourselves of the shackles that they place over you, which was to try and keep you all in the dark, to keep us in the dark, because I too was once in the dark.
Yeah. I mean, there is literally something that happens to you when you become enlightened. It's the only way that I could explain it. But I feel like I am a much better individual and a much better citizen because I know now what I know. um I no longer think that some people chose their lives and that everybody had the same opportunities, because I used to think these things. I used to think, well, everybody have the same opportunities and some people just lazy and they don't want to work. And I don't think like that anymore. I always stop to think about, okay, what happened, what interference, political or otherwise, caused this individual to be in this situation now. And I am so much more considerate and compassionate and whatnot. And I love that. I love that I've been able to evolve into a better version of myself because of what I'm exposed to. And it also kind of instills in you a desire to want to be part of the solution, to do some good and to bring about some change.
Mhm.
And I honestly believe that, I mean, we always talk about in the Progressive Empowerment Party that our mission is to inform, educate, and empower. And we have done that to a great extent. We have done that, because people who come in contact with the party, they start to understand the role and function of government. They start to understand their rights. They start to understand why they have an MP, and they start to see, okay, everything is falling down around me, and nothing is getting better. So clearly, the people we have in the Red House are not doing a
Mhm.
good job, and we should get rid of them. And I love that. I really, really love that type of change. I mean, it feels slow sometimes, and you still encounter people whose ignorance and stupidity just leaves you baffled. But for the most part, I really feel encouraged.
It is very encouraging, and it's one of the reasons why I don't want us to get caught up in this. They vote for that and they will vote for that
Yeah,
again. So
yeah,
because it's so not it's counterproductive to what we are all trying to do. I don't think, and this is not anymore a fight about race. It's not anymore a fight about, because you could go we talking about beat them and move and lab until now, but I'm hearing that there are places down in South that maybe not because maybe because they're not protesting, we're not hearing about it, but it affecting us all the same. Creed, color, race, religion. Let's talk religion.
yeah.
The MS, after so many months, had to fight and fight and fight just to have an open air cremations. Look at this. We have fests going on, big boat cruise happening, and these people can't perform their religious ceremonies. Why is that the case? And why is the case that it's suddenly okay to do it now?
Well, I mean, we were talking about this before we went live, and you made me think of something that was not in my mind at all. And the fact that this could literally be a political move to appease people of a certain demographic from certain communities, so that the PNM could actually probably have a chance to win in the by-elections coming up in DB. And I did not think about that, but in this country, that is very, very possible, because that is the type of country that we live in, where the government doesn't just work because they are servants to the people and they're supposed to do certain things. They work because it is convenient, because it suits their agenda.
That is literally the politics of Trinidad and Tobago. Whose agenda am I falling under? Whose agenda, or what agenda am I creating? Like, that's just what it feels like. And it always feels like there's some hidden agenda behind everything. And it's sad that I can read that and say, oh, maybe they just came to a very amicable resolution. Amidst, never mind the fact that they have a lawsuit that's pending an outcome next year. Never mind the fact that this was fought very nastily in the public space. Now they're all amicable and shaking hands. I mean, I am happy that the SDMS got what they were advocating for. I am happy that they can finally bring some level of closure to
Yeah.
the passing of their loved ones. I mean, that to me is the ultimate victory of all of this. But if this was a decision made in the hopes of buying further votes, if this was a decision made to try and sway the public towards or in favor of the PNM, it's a very, I mean, how low again you could go. But then,
Yeah.
I saying that to people who have been known to do even worse things. And I mean, to use religious means is not beneath them. We have so
Yeah.
many churches. Don't want to call names. I know of a certain woman who doesn't go to church anymore because she said her pastor no longer preaches the word. All he preaches is the vaccine. And of course, the church is getting government subventions and stuff. So what is it? Is it the word of the Lord or the word of Raoul? Which is it?
Woo. That is a
Let's
good
not pretend
question.
that the church and the politics have not intertwined, and let's not pretend that it's not another tool used to
Yeah, to
manipulate.
brainwash people and for propaganda to continue to spread and for the government to get their way. I feel like though that because there were a lot of different groups that were losing family members and whatnot, but to me this was a classic case of discrimination, because Christian people were still allowed to bury and cremate their dead, and different groups and whatnot. And I was like, the Hindu community for months have been harping and begging and pleading so that they could have their open air ceremonies. I mean, they, like everybody else, have been devastated as well by the pandemic. So many people are dying and whatnot. So it will stand to reason that, of course, they would want to do, their rituals and their ceremonies and whatnot. And I just felt like it was so blatantly discriminatory and racist.
Yeah.
And if it is that they are now allowed to do their open air cremations, and the PNM is hoping that by lifting the ban, it's going to work in their favor. I don't think so. I think you have pushed people to the edge. I can understand how people could start to develop hate and resentment in their hearts, for a PNM government, and will still continue their UNC persuasions, because they would feel like, I don't have a place in this country. This government does not look out for me or look out for people like me. And I can understand that. And this is what we do. We push people to the edge.
But think about it, Hadassah. What has this government done in the past 6 years that they've been in office to bring people together? They have been the most divisive of
Oh
any
yeah.
government I've seen. What
Yes.
was the statement by Rowley? What's so important about doubles?
What's so special
What was
about
special about doubles? And then when they reopened the country, or when they had shut down the country, I can't even remember now, in 2020, and everybody else was able to operate, but they were, what was
the
it?
body doubles vendors? Yes. KFC, and they will, you could go in KFC and buy a box of dead, but you can't
Yeah,
go and
you
buy doubles
cannot
or only the doubles
purchase
box.
doubles.
Yeah.
And I remember during that whole debacle, just how nasty, the real nasty and ugly and Trinis came out at that time. And I say Trinis, the ones who have not yet learned better. Let's talk about them like that, because I don't want to believe that they're hopeless. Let's just say they've been taught bad things. Simplifying it, they've been taught bad things, and that they need to unlearn, and they don't yet know that they need to unlearn these things. When they had descended into the pits of racism and hatred and bigotry around that time, I remember one of the things I was thinking is, where is the PNM government? Where is Keith Rowley? Where are all of the MPs and ministers, even those in East Indian communities? Where are they to come out and create that form of cohesion and unity and say, guys, no, let's not fight each other. We're one. We're one country. We love doubles when we have no money, and we buy KFC when it's the end of the month and we can afford $40. But we all live in harmony. We love doubles. We love KFC.
No, they're not going to say, they're
We
not going to say anything.
all
They silently spur on and encourage that type of hate and vitriol, because in a country that is notoriously known as a two-party country, they believe that if people are so turned off from the from UNC, which is predominantly an East Indian party, then they would have no choice but to vote PNM. So it suits their agenda. It works for them. Um, and it's almost like win at any cost, even if it is the very soul of the nation, even if it means that we have to be tearing at each other's throat, tearing each other down, hating one another, win at all cost. I mean, that alone tells you how hateful the PNM is, um, and why they are not fit to lead, because they don't understand that you need to bring people together and, you know, build bridges and encourage discourse and encourage people to understand each other.
And to me, that is the true hallmark of leadership. Somebody, and it doesn't matter your rank, it really, really doesn't matter, because at all levels of society, you find leaders at the top, 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 and even at the bottom. A leader is somebody who, a leader is created. A leader is somebody who has empathy. A leader is somebody who knows what it feels like. They might know the exact situation, but they're smart enough to try and put themselves in that person's situation. A leader brings people together, like you say, they don't divide, and they understand that we're stronger together. Divided,
Indeed.
we may win for a while. Divided, we may conquer for a while. But ultimately, look at it. For the past 59, it's 59 years this year, right? Past 59 years of independence. So all of the division and the fighting and all of that, PNM won for a while for all of the time that they were in power, and UNC won for a while when they were in power. But we, the people, ultimately, what we have to show for the 59 years,
Nothing.
what we win,
Nothing. I know.
what did we win?
I know. Oh my gosh. I was watching, I can't remember what it, oh yeah, yeah. I read like Queer Eye on Netflix. That's just my thing.
Mhm.
But I was looking at, they were doing a talk in Kansas City. One of the guys is from Missouri. And he was talking about the fact that he left Kansas 20 years ago, and it was nice to come back. And he was like, he was remembering when he left, that I mean, that he said there were so many empty buildings and not a lot of business or commerce and whatnot. He said he's come back to this very lively, bustling city with so much business and art and whatnot and whatnot. And I was like, when a Trinidadian leaves Trinidad and they go to live abroad and they come back, what do they see? And when you look at it, Trinidad has not changed. There may be a speckling of buildings built or whatnot, but we have not changed. There's no development in the city. There's no nightlife. We have no art galleries. We don't have like, so those little pubs that you could go in and you could do karaoke and whatnot. We don't have any of that. And I'm like, it is true. What do we have to show? How we've grown in terms of artistic expression, and how we've grown in terms of our ability to be self-sufficient, or in manufacturing or in tourism or in anything. How have we grown or expanded or become better? We have not.
And he's saying that in the midst of what is confirmed price hikes across every sector. It's not just the manufacturing, it's the food sector, chicken going up, flour going up, cement, like everything is just like double whammy after double whammy after double whammy. And I was cleaning the other day and I found um old newspapers like 10, 12 years ago, and it was talking about hike in prices, food prices coming, and I was like, Lord, things used to feel real hard back then. How are we managing now?
I mean,
How are we making out? Because it's like
somebody said it
I
yesterday.
feel like the price hikes
Yeah,
just now.
somebody said yesterday on Facebook. He said you can imagine that food is 10% more expensive than it was from August this year. And he's saying, you telling me people not living by the grace of God? Literally.
It is my that. It is my that. Let me tell you, and I don't like to talk my personal business, but I have to talk my personal business because I have to be real here. Apart from working Citizens Union, which is mostly a thank you job, apart from doing that, and I love doing that. Of course, I have to eat, I have to live, I have bills to pay.
Yes.
I have my own personal business, and I would say it's a seasonal business because I do gift items, and of course, holidays are your biggest time. And so, one of the reasons I believe I got sick is because I haven't gotten sick in the past 3 years, and I was boasting about that, and I guess I jinxed myself. One of the reasons I believe I got sick is because my body
Was
was
tired.
so tired
Run down. Yeah.
from October, November, December. So tired doing cuts, doing PEP, doing Victoria Foods grab and go, and then doing my personal business. And then, of course, you have to go home, and you can't just go home and lay down and be like, oh, I'm Princess Margaret, I've worked 5 jobs a day, so I get to sleep. You don't get to always do that. Sometimes I get
Yes.
to do that. And I was tired. And the reason why I worked and I pushed myself so hard, Hadassah, is because I am deathly concerned about what the next few years should be
Was
still
going to
remaining
bring.
in government
Yes.
to look like.
Yeah.
So I told myself, I need to be financially stable. I need to make it happen for myself, at least for at least a few months, because
Yes.
Lord knows what is going to happen. And so said, so done. Prices of everything has gone up. The
Yeah.
cost of living is just out of this world. I'm watching a post on Facebook yesterday, a woman in a woman's group saying, does anybody know of a hardware that allows you to buy material
On credit.
on credit? Because my
Layaway.
husband and I,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
took a loan to build our house, and we ran out of money, but we're good for it because both of us working. We have 2 jobs. And I'm like, wait, you and your husband working, you'll have 2 jobs and you'll still can't afford a mortgage. That's not an indication of you and how hard you're working. That's an indication that you're living in a country
That a failure.
that fails, and it's
Failed
making
it. You.
home ownership
Yeah.
an impossibility, a virtual
Yeah.
impossibility for you and
Yep.
hundreds of thousands of other people. You can't
Yep.
tell me working 2 jobs and you still can't afford to pay a mortgage. That
No.
means life in Trinidad is very freaking hard.
I mean, I'm
That's
glad
why I have children. Children expensive.
you understand. You see the cost of a tin of formula, and it's like, how people doing this? How
How
people
are you all
doing
doing
this?
this? Listen, everybody who knows me knows that I want to be a mommy someday, and I just realized that I'm blocking the thing that I came to show this morning. It's my first time in my pep jersey for the year. Woo-hoo. As I'm on pep
Yeah,
talk. Woo-hoo. So this should have been on this side. Yeah. Um, what was I saying?
mummies. You got to
Yes,
be a mummy one day.
everybody who knows me know I want to be a mommy. I would love to be a mother, but the cost of being a mother these days, to all of you mothers who doing it, kudos to you. I could
Yeah,
barely mind myself. Barely mind myself. And it's like the cost is out of this world, and then everything else, because you want to be a mommy, so you want to live in your own home. That's almost impossible if you're a single person. And let's not pretend single people can't have children. This is 2022. Get with the
yeah,
times.
yeah,
But everything is literally working, or it works against you in this country. And just to get back on the more serious side of things, it is hard to live in a country with so many limited opportunities, and where you feel like your interests are just not at the core of what the people who're supposed to look after your interests, it's not at the core of what they're trying to do.
yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that because I know I told you that I wanted us to talk about jobs and employment in Trinidad as it relates specifically to the role of government in terms of job creation, but also in face of all the mandates that they are handing down to probably one of the worst paid um, public workforces in the world. But let's stick a pin in that because on the other side of the socioeconomic spectrum, we have Carnival stakeholders want government to make decision on Carnival 2022. And I feel like I'm not a Carnival stakeholder. I don't play mass. I've never played mass. I don't care for it much, or whatnot. But I'm not an artist. I'm not a soca artist, or I don't have a mass band or whatnot. But I just feel like in the face of everything, this is a little bit trivial, where we have people on the bottom who literally cannot sleep comfortably in their homes because of the nauseating set of sewage water coming up into their yards and into their houses. We have people who seem so, I don't know, unaware or detached from the reality of life for the average citizen, clamoring to make carnival happen. And I'm asking myself, how is this going to happen? What they think is going to happen if the government decides to give them the green light for to let carnival go on? Carnival isn't it's a whole season. Usually, I mean, you start to hear new soca songs were being released from the year before, October, sometimes even earlier, and things like that. People started to talk about what they think going to be road march and whatnot. How they intend to do this, and is it that they have all been putting things in place, and the reason why they're putting pressure on government is because they've been secretly planning to have a carnival? I don't know. Felicia, tell me what you think.
This is an interesting topic. And before you, as I was listening to you talk, and I was wondering, because my first thought was, who are these carnival stakeholders? I would like to know, because they are the carnival stakeholders, like the people who actually, they're employed by the carnival season. So
Yeah.
including people around the savannah who build up the
Yes.
huts, who work in the huts.
Yeah.
They're the people who get the trickle-along effects of carnival, the fat promoters, and then they're the people who really benefit from carnival, like those who walk away from carnival set for life.
Yeah.
Well, clearly not life if they're clamoring for another carnival. But I don't want to be, dismissive to those who actually have lost their source of income, because I do
Income.
know that the
Mhm.
tradesmen, the panists, and I do know that some people have suffered as a result of the no carnival. But I also think that we have not allowed, because carnival has become so commercialized, it's literally been exported to China. Because of all of that, we literally have lost the ability to reinvent the wheel. And that's what I think we should have been looking and doing right now, rather than push for army having a carnival. You're talking safe zones. Why not create your own little carnival safe zone, so that they want foreigners to come to this? Because if that's the case, let's let's be smart about this. The entire world is crying Omicron, Omicron, COVID, COVID. I don't think now is the time to be inviting hundreds of thousands of visitors to come on our shores to party and rub up on each other. So I hope that that's not what the stakeholders mean by having a carnival. But if they're talking about finding ways to create and stimulate income for people who would have been otherwise out of a job because of the carnival season, then let's have that discussion. And does it have to be a carnival? Can there be other things that they can do? The arts itself, can it be reinvented? So as you mentioned something, the promenade, the city of Port of Spain, why we don't have a museum of pan, why we don't have a museum of costumes, why we don't have like the people who sell around the savannah, is it that they only work around carnival time? Why they don't have their
Exactly.
own stores that are constantly running down in the city of Port of Spain? Why are we not looking at ways to reinvent the wheel? I think some of us were hopeful that COVID was going to be a 1 year thing, a 2 year thing, but the reality is this is probably something we're going to have to live with for the rest of our lives. And I think the nations that truly have visionary leaders, the nations that are
Be
easy,
fair better.
easier to adapt. I think they're the ones who are going to really weather this COVID-19 decade, however long it's going to be. Hopefully, it's not that long. But countries like ours, countries that were already disadvantaged to begin with, clearly, we're going to be struggling still, and we're going to still be stuck in conversations. I'm listening to the radio and they're like, we don't know if we're having a carnival yet, but we have any carnival warm up. And I'm like, this is our priority. Seriously. And we
Yes.
literally just stuck again, keeping people underinformed and misinformed, and they just don't know better. Carnival can evolve. It can, and it doesn't have to be what it was. Let's be sensible, but we need true visionary leaders to be able to do.
You're very right. You're very right. One of my favorite movies is A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger, and one of my favorite lines in the movie is "You've been weighed, you've been measured, and you've been found wanting." And that is how I feel about our present Prime Minister and his administration, because the pandemic and the challenges that we're facing has shown us that they are not up to the task. Um, and I don't know if it is that they just don't care, or if really and truly that they are totally out of ideas. Because what we recognize is that the businesses that have been able to survive the pandemic were the businesses that were able to pivot and to change how they do business. So I was telling Lima some weeks ago on the show that I'm so proud of, like, a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs who like totally up their online marketing game and their social media and stuff like that. A lot of people who would have had like actual brick and mortar stores actually turned everything to online, and they're really killing it and whatnot.
Royal Castle
And
delivers. Royal Castle delivers
imagine
now.
Imagine that. And we needed a responsive government in order to face the challenges of the pandemic. And I've always said I did not think that it was going to be easy, or that we were going to have a easy go at it. But seriously, our leaders are not up to the task, because they have not taken the opportunity, like you rightly said, to see how can we change this, how can we improve it, how can it still be profitable, and how can we still um, satisfy people in terms of their wanting or their desire or craving to have a carnival. There was so much opportunities to be creative, not only in terms of carnival, but in terms of us moving towards a more food sustainable and food sufficient economy. There were so many opportunities, and we totally dropped the ball. And the thing about it is, you don't it's easy for a leader to lead in the good times. Everybody's in a good mood, and the economy is up and money is flowing and things like that. But when we really need you to show up is when the chips are down, when things are hard, when things are difficult. That is when we see what you are made of. And I don't like what I see.
And that's a fact. If you're just joining us, folks, I think maybe the last 10 minutes, but still sharing live. Very, very interesting conversation this morning. Hadassah, I swear you all are the only people who can get me out of my bed before 7 o'clock to do the show.
Oh,
And
really?
I'm really glad that I got to do it and to be a part. And it's still going on, but everything that you're saying is spot on. And we have literally been just wanting for good leadership. We want it, and we know it, we know that what we settle for, we know that we settle in. We like the woman who decide after 40 or 50 or have a kid, the next man who come along and treat me a little kind of nice. I'll go for him because I feel like I can do better, and that's where we are. We
Yeah.
literally have been settling over and over and over and over because we feeling like, we get the abuse on one side, the abuse not so bad on this side, and we're not sure about others, so we'll settle. But it's not like that anymore. And I was saying that we once upon a time we did not have options. We didn't have people who presented ideas for what leadership could actually look like. And this is not meant to, or it was not planned to be a plug for Philip Edward Alexander. But the man who I saw standing up in this shit on Monday was him. Wasn't
Yeah.
Heinz, wasn't
Yeah.
Raul, and wasn't
True.
Terry who was crying for everything. He wasn't crying for the
True. True.
residents on Monday. It was Philip.
Yeah.
It was him. So if I had to make a judgment based on that, it would be the person who showed up. And that,
Yeah.
for the most part, is what we just have been lacking. We only see you every 5 years. But when we need you, when are you going to show up? Show up and tell me, oh, I real sorry it can't be fixed right now. But I hear I need shit with you, literally and figuratively.
I don't know. Yeah, we're actually not used to people showing up. Um, and we've gotten used to our leaders disappointing us, lying to us, stunting, pretending. Because Limo was telling me about the fact that was it Limo? No, I was listening to Philip last night, and he was talking about Stuart Young all of a sudden speaking out so vehemently about fireworks and lanterns and things like that. And he asked the question, but when you were the Minister of National Security and it was within your power to actually enforce the law where that was concerned, you didn't do anything. So what you're doing now, you're the Ministry of Energy, you're the Minister of Energy, and you have to ask yourself, it's like these people are really just good at playing the game. Politics is all a game to us. Our lives um are just games to them.
The I was gonna say something. I was gonna say that this is clearly a government of hindsight. The government that only knows things when they're not in the position to do the actual things
Mm-hmm.
that they should have and could have done when they had the opportunity. And the same goes for the present opposition, and I have to lay it on them too. Because what a lot of people don't understand, what people who look down on residents of Beetham and Belmont and Mova and Laventille, what they don't understand is that to be constantly abused in such a way, it forms I don't know if you all know about trauma bonding, but you should read up on trauma bonding. And I swear Trinidad and Tobago is like in a whole trauma bond with its governments, past and plural,
Yeah.
where you literally know that this person is the worst for you, but you can't help but go back to them. You know why? Because they probably at one point gave you some reason to believe that they're not as bad as the other one who hurt you just as badly. But they're using that fear of the other and the unknown to manipulate you and basically control you. And that's what we are. We've been manipulated and controlled by our governments. We've been lied to. We've been dumbed down. We've been sidelined. We've been torn apart. We've been made to fight each other. And they've watched, they've profited, they have thrived throughout it all. And it's only understood. I understand when people say, I would, when I say understand, I could understand the level of thinking when people say I'm UNC and I'm not voting PNM because they did X, Y, Z, and I'm PNM and I'm not voting UNC because they did X, Y, Z. I understand why you're saying that. I do. But I also
Yeah.
understand that that's never going to lead to a happy end. And I also understand that the
Mm.
only way to escape that situation is to escape both of them. You don't leave one abusive man to go back to the next abusive man because he abused you less. You leave the abuse completely. You leave it
Yeah.
completely. And that is the only way to heal. And when I say leave the abuse completely, I'm not saying abstain your votes. I'm not saying that. I find that it took too long for us as a people to even rise up and form viable third and alternative options. Why did it take us so long? But thankfully it's happened and it's here and we have options now. Onus now is on us though to heal ourselves and realize that we fight each other, it didn't work. Maybe if we work together it might.
Indeed. Very well said, Felicia. I saw a clip on Facebook recently, and a guy, he was addressing an audience, and he was saying that we can identify a thief who takes your money. He might take your car, he might take your jewelry, right? And you can say, okay, that's a thief, and we will all fight to make sure that he goes to jail and whatnot. You say, but politicians, they steal your lives, they steal your future, they steal. You understand these things that you could never get back, but yet still we will fight each other for our right to keep them there. And that is how the world is upside down.
Yep.
And we need to, I don't know, make a concerted effort to right side the ship, and make better choices. I mean, they always talk about New Year, New You. 2020, 2022, 2022, 2022 is a good year to say, I am not going to allow myself to be abused anymore. It is a good time to walk away from an abusive relationship with your government or with anybody or anything that does not suit you, that does not contribute to your emotional, physical, spiritual, financial well being and happiness. Um, so, with that, I
With
think
that
we've come to the
said,
end of
I
the
want to
show.
make a
Did you want to
little
say something to
I want
Felicia?
to make
Yeah,
a
go
little
ahead.
build on what you just said with that, and I will say y'all have an opportunity, and the opportunity presented itself like manna from heaven on February 7th. People, people, don't just say you like what you saw in Tobago. They made that happen. Huh? And when I say they made that happen, not the PDP, the
The
people of
people.
Tobago made that happen when they said enough is enough.
Enough
On
is
the
enough. Yeah.
7th of February 2022, the electoral district of Davis South, you have the opportunity to do the same.
Yes.
You have the opportunity to set the same example that Tobago has set for the rest of us. This is your turn. It is your turn. I don't think Davis South ever realized how important they were going to be to the political landscape of Trinidad and Tobago. But all eyes on you. And to our PB candidates, our screening candidates, this is our time. And when I say it's our time, not like you and
I
Suez
know.
now appear. No,
Me
no, this
time
is
now.
our
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
show the rest of Trinidad and Tobago that
Yeah.
change is possible, that options do exist, and
Yeah.
that we're not taking this anymore. Yeah?
Indeed. Indeed.
February
Today,
7th.
you have the opportunity to make history and literally change the course and the trajectory of our country. So let's do it. Felicia, I really want to thank you for spending a little over an hour with us this morning. I always enjoy when you're on the show. I enjoy the level of conversation and discourse, and I really hope to the audience that you guys found it thought provoking and that you would come away from it feeling hopeful and empowered. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me as always.
Yes, and guys, we will be back on Monday. Lima will be back as well. So join us, and you guys have a safe and happy weekend. Goodbye.
Bye.